Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get started up. Wow, look at that! It's just in time. Look at that. We are literally just starting right now. Welcome. Find your place, find your seat. Well, come on in. Fortunately, I am a generous professor, and I allow my students to both wear pajamas in class and eat in class as well. So buckle the fuck up, buckaroos. Here we go.
But we're not paying you. We can do what we want.
Listen, you keep that up right now. I'll take that Tonka tuck.
No, I think it's
I want it!
It's like if we pay him.
Paying in time.
Colleges are a little
That's what
institution
the
I
search
do not
power.
associate with them.
Yeah, well, that's why this is a private lecture, not a college institution. It's different. Anyway, okay, so Bionicle. I don't have it written up on the board, but technically, fuck it.
Multiplied like a motherfucker.
106. Totally changed it. Look at that.
Wow.
Super professional.
Super professional. There we go. 106. Bionicle. 106 today. All right. So quick recap of what we were going over last time. Everybody from the island of Motunui makes it over to the island of Metronui, where they find out, all the Toa and the Traga find out that the Great Spirit Motunui is dying, and that's a big no-no. So they send off the Toa Nuva, with the exception of Nuva, to go to a mysterious island that is a nightmare hell realm called the Voyanui, to go and find it there. Before they can do that, there are a group of murderous thief asshole beings known as the Piraka, which is, the Piraka as a word is about every racial slur you can combine with while also calling someone a cunt. It's about that kind of like connotation. They're going around and convince all the Matoran that they are actually Toa, and then proceed to enslave them all, because they're looking for this mysterious mask of life. At the same time, the Matoran, some of the key Matoran players we've seen from Motunui, primarily Matoro, the translator for Turaga Nuju, Jala, head captain of the Takora Guard, Holly, the current chronicler of Metronui's Matoran, Huki, #1 best athlete, Starboy, Kongu, the leader of the Gecko Force, and Nuparu, the Bionicle Tony Stark, have all gone together with Takanuva because they're going to go find out where the Toanuva have gone, because they're missing for a few weeks, and Takanuva kind of spilt the beans, and Turaga no Kamo also was like, hey, LMAO, just letting you know, the Toanuva have been gone for a few weeks, we probably think they're dead. The whole universe is going to collapse in a little bit of time, so have at it. So, we left off with, in Book 2, Dark Destiny, where the Matoran have just wound up on the island of Karzani and have met the leader of Karzani, who is like, I'm fucking crazy, and begins to start showing the Matoran all their, using his mask of alternate futures, start showing them all their like worst possible outcomes in their heads to just try and forcibly make them submit to his will. And in doing so, also makes them all remove their old masks and put on just random masks he gives them, with the exception of Kongu. Kongu picked up that Kanoe Selectu, the mask of telepathy, earlier, and he just does a little swap with that. And he's like, no, see, it's totally different mask now. Totally different mask, but he actually at least knows what that one is. Jala is more than a little pissed about this because he finds out that, I was wearing Toa Lacan's mask this entire time, and I'm being forced to leave it here. This is an insult to his legacy. I will come back for it at some point. Karzani drags off Holly to start having her tell him all the stories of being a chronicler or whatever. So she starts telling him all the stories about, about how they were the great beings and they sent the Great Spirit Motunui down and all this stuff and everything that's happened with Makuta and the Metronui and the Dark Hunters and the Island of Motunui, the quest for the masks, the Bohrok-Kal, the Rakshi, the Mask of Light, recanting everything of it. And Karzani is like, wow, that's all really hilarious and cool. I don't believe any of it. It's all fake news. Don't believe it all. There's only two beings in this universe of power, and that is me, Karzani, and my brother, Artaka. Nice try, though. At the same time, the other Matoran from this group have been sent off to whatever the equivalent of the Matoran salt mines are. And they're just hacking away at stuff, and they kind of like, we need to escape out of here. Like, there's nobody actually like shackling them down. there's nobody, like, there's no real guards or anything to, like, keep watch on them and make sure they stay in place. All the other Matoran that are there who are horribly damaged and, like, broken and stuff are all just, they've lost the will to go on. They're enslaved by their own apathy. And so the others are like, oh, hey, look, there's some, I thought I saw a Matoran running around the thing. Let's go run over there and ask them stuff. So Jala and the gang start running over there, neglecting their toiling duties. And I go, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, it's like, oh, I managed to escape, the watch of the Monas crabs and Karzani because I've just been hanging around here. I've just been hanging around with these canisters, and they're like, wait, what? And he's like, oh yeah, no, the great canisters, like, wow, it was so long ago, way so long ago, like 100,000 years ago, so long ago, we made these great canisters, for powerful Tahu, and wise Onua, and great Gali, and they're like, and he's just listing all the Toa Mata, well, the Toa Nuva at this point, that apparently he helped make those canisters for originally at some point. And they're like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, oh yeah, I saw that canisters here. And they're like, wait, you have canisters here in the realm of Karzani? Like, and so immediately all the Matoran are like, we could definitely use these. We could use these to escape this place. That's what the Toa used before. We could totally use those to escape. We need to find these canisters. So like, oh man, we love the look of those canisters. Is there any way you could show us where they are? And this Matoran's like, oh yeah, definitely, sure. While hobbling with a horrible.
Do you have any launch codes?
Yeah, do you have any launch codes? So they make their way to where these canisters are, and they're like, oh wow, these are great. We can get these canisters and go. And we're like, wait, what about Holly? We totally left her behind. What do we do? Do we just bail and try to come back from her later or not? And they're like, no, let's go grab her and we can do it. And as they were saying this, Karzani shows up and he was like, yeah, no, about that, I'm here now, and so is your liar of a chronicler. He's made up all these fanciful stories. Don't believe any of it. So as punishment, because you guys are trying to escape, I'm just going to start feeding into you, like, your most horrible nightmares and making you live those out. And Matoro, Big Dick Baller Matoro, steps up and he's like, I volunteer as tribute. So he's like, do your worst. And Karzani goes into Matoro's mind and makes everyone around him live out the sequence of events where the Toa Nuva never returned from the island of Voya Nui. The Mask of Life is never achieved. Mata Nui dies and the universe dies with it. Everything falls out. And in this moment, Karzani is like, this is where Karzani actually realizes that there is a huge world outside of his island. This is all true. And he's having a lot of difficulty suddenly realizing that there's somebody bigger than me out there.
I was about to say, it's like, if he's coming from the nightmare, he's like, none of this is true. But it's kind of weird that it's in your nightmare.
Yeah, I know. So
The
exactly.
time for knowing is
The time
now.
for knowing is now. That's the best part about Bionicle going forward, like after the Metro Nui saga. The time for knowing is always now. It's never, oh no, later maybe. Yes,
I'm
Chris.
sorry. Yeah, so, because I'm trying to figure out, because you only gave us a small description of how Karzani kind of looks, and I'm seeing two pictures. Is he like scary Emperor guy with 4 separate pieces of mask, or is he scary Mantis Lego? Like, which?
Okay, it's a little bit of a spoiler there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Karzani,
Sorry.
Karzani is a giant green hulking being, somewhat larger than a Toa. He has a mask that his mask looks as if it is made up of 4 different masks that are just like stitched together in a really weird way. He is also batshit insane because when he uses, I believe it's the great Kenohi Elisi, which is the mask of alternate futures, every time he uses it, he doesn't just make everybody else or whoever he's using it on experience this alternate, like, worst possibility outcome. He also experiences that as well. So it's like if he was like, hey, didn't you think the Saw movies were cool? Let's see what your Saw movie is. But then he also has to watch that with you the entire time.
Oh God.
So he is kind of not all there. So in this, he is just stunned and baffled. And the Matoran are like, cool, while he's busy having a mental breakdown, that's our chance to leave. And they're like, wait, hey, strange other Matoran who showed us these canisters, come with us. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna. You guys have the courage to go out and do there, but I'm gonna go and do other stuff. I wish you the best of luck on your journeys. The 6 Matoran hop into these canisters which all immediately seal up and begin just drifting off into the water. So now we swap back to Voya Nui, and I didn't do a really good job of explaining the battle, the first big battle between the Toa Nuva and the Piraka. When we kind of went over it last time, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, they just kind of got wiped, but it's you know, they're kind of just overtaken and ambushed, and the Piraka have a lot of experience fighting Toa. So let me do a quick recap on actually how the battle goes. Radok, the big black one, is standing up on the side. He sees 6 Toa walking up, immediately jumps down and starts trying to tussle with them. As they are doing this, they all start like shooting elemental energy and stuff and beating up Radok. Hakan, the red one, is also there with him, and he's kind of sitting off on the sidelines like, sure is a lot of Toa. Sure would be a shame if they beat up Radok. And then we only had to split the treasure 5 ways. Yup. And proceeds to just walk back off into the jungle. And so, the 6 Toa are all starting to fight Radok. It's mostly Tahu Nuva, Liwa Nuva, Onua Nuva, and Pohatu Nuva. And they beating him, and he keeps getting up, and they're like, yo, what are you doing here, Rock? He's like, Rakshi breath? And he's like, Rakshi, cute. I used Rakshi to pick my teeth. So, you guys had enough yet? And they're like, isn't that our line to tell you that? And he's like, JK Lols. So Tahu goes, okay, cool. So I've got this really good idea. Onua, Pohatu, Liwa. Here's what you do. Pohatu grabs Onua by the waist and uses his massive speed to start circling around Radok really, really fast. Onua Nuva uses his Quake Breakers to start like drilling and like slicing into the ground of this giant circle. Liwa Nuva summons a giant whirlwind to shoot this rock up that Radok is on. Shoots it like a mile up into the sky and then cuts the wind. And Radok just falls and falls and falls and falls and falls and just boom! This huge crater in the ground from where he was. And they're like, cool. Did that beat him? And he just gets up. He was like, that tickled. Oh, that was cute. Let's see what else he got. At the same time, Zaktan, the green one, who is the leader, is walking down the mountain. He's like, fucking Toa. Oh, hey, Hakan, where do you think you're going? He's like, oh, hey, boss. So, I just don't feel like, you're like, yeah, Radok's just, going to fight Toa, and I'm over here, because that means, they're probably going to beat him, and we don't have to split the treasure more than 5 ways now. And Zaktan's like, let me get this straight. Let me just guess. Radok saw Toa and jumped headfirst into battle and to go confront them without any provocation or anything. And Hakan is like, yeah, weird, how'd you know that? And he's like, because that's exactly what I would do if I was about to go betray all the other members of my party to a team of Toa. Now we go down there and we figure out what's going on. So Zaktan and Hakan immediately start running down. Hakan shows up first, and Toa Gali is like, hey, we're going to beat you. And so he's like, yeah, that's really nice. Not going to happen. So Toa Gali Nuva summons a sphere of water around Hakan's head and begins drowning him. To which his response is, oh no, I'm drowning. Oh wait. And just starts shooting out like heat rays out of his eyes and boiling the water away from his head. And he's like, yeah, doesn't do much. So Toa Gali Nuva goes to strike him with one of her aqua axes, and he just superheats it with his heat beams and almost melts the axe out of her hand. She drops it, and then immediately starts hitting her with these mental blasts. And so she's on the defensive. She's flipping around and backflipping and stuff, trying to cartwheel out of the way. And eventually he manages to hit her really hard, because she stumbles into something, and then just starts mind blasting her really hard, and she just passes out. She's unconscious. At the same time, Avok, the brown one, is standing up on the hillside. He's like, wow, what's all the commotion about? So he starts walking down and he says, oh, look, Toa, here's have some fun. So now it's 4 Piraka against 6 Toa. Well, 5. Gali is down. So Kopaka steps up and he's like, God, not another one. All right, guys, I got this one. Avok shows up. He was like, hey, so before I was a Dark Hunter, I was a jailer. And Kopaka's like, okay, why do I care? He's like, so Here's the thing, though. Any cell that can be made, any prison that can be formed, any key can be picked and lock can be broken if somebody is willing to find their way out. So when I was working with the Dark Hunters, I went over to the Brotherhood of Makuta because I wanted to learn stuff, and they did some stuff to me, man. And now I can make whatever prisons I want. Immediately sends up a wall of fire around Kopaka Nuva. Kopaka Nuva is like, don't care, sends out walls of ice. But as he starts sending his elemental ice power to try and combat the walls of fire, the fire prison just starts heating up. And Avok is like, cool. See, I knew you would do that. That's why I made a prison where the colder it gets on the inside, the hotter the flames are just going to get. So eventually, you're just going to turn to ash because it's going to be crazy. Does not take long. Kopaka Nuva passes out. Tahu Nuva sees all this going on. Zaktan finally makes his appearance. Zaktan and Tahu start fighting each other. And they start combating each other or whatever. And Zaktan starts doing the, hey, listen, Toa guys, why don't you just join up with us? I don't know who sent you here. I don't know if it was the Dark Hunters. I don't know if it was some other group. I don't know who sent you here after us. But why don't you join us? And Tahu Nuva is just like, no, two of my guys are down over there. Definitely going to fight you. This is going to be a huge, great battle or whatever. And so they're having a good old-fashioned sword fight. Eventually pushes one, because what he's doing is, every time Tahu Nuva swings his sword, he's like channeling like magma through the swords to superheat them. So every time he hits where Zaktan would be, or his blades, all of a sudden they start melting. And they just reform. And he's like, wait, your entire body is just made out of smaller pieces and can just remake itself. That's a pretty neat trick. Zaktan's like, yeah, and one that you won't have to worry about for much longer, because I'm going to kill you. And thrusts his sword at Tahu Nuva, who is kind of caught off guard, and immediately throws up the massive shielding. Yes, Zach.
Did you set this whole thing up just so you could say, I'm going to kill you, Zach, and no one would know that you're trying to kill me?
So you want me to say, quote, I will kill you, Zach, end quote? I'm trying to figure out what you're wanting from me.
Nothing, go ahead.
Okay, come back to me later with it.
He's got the sound
So Tahu Nuva throws up his shield, and Zaktan's like, LOL, mighty hero Toa has to hide behind his shield. And in the book, it's like, Tahu Nuva knew that he was being baited. But he went and threw down the shield anyway. And it's like, good old Tahu Nuva, not listening to reason. So they keep fighting there. Meanwhile, down on the beach, so they're fighting more and more, and eventually, Tahu Nuva like trips over a rock or something there, and Zaktan goes in for a thrust, and Tahu Nuva turns around expecting to feel like a blade carving into him, and it's nothing. And he's like, look, man, we don't have to fight. You can just join us. Think about it. You could have a whole team of Toa join up with us. We could take over the entire world. You guys are powerful, we're powerful, why don't you work with us? And Tahu Nuva was like, I'd rather be dead. Zaktan's like, I can do that. And immediately goes in for a stab. And Tahu Nuva's like, expects to feel like a blade piercing into his armor. But it's worse than that, because as he does this, Zaktan turns his entire like blade into all of the trillions of prototypes that are making up of his body, and they start swarming in between the cracks of his armor and slicing and eating away at his like organic flesh and armor, and it just it's so painful, it sends Tahu Nuva into shock, and he passes out. So we've got 4 Piraka have beaten 3 Toa at this point. We've got 3 more that are still stuck trying to fight Radok, with Onua Nuva, Pohatu Nuva, and Lewa Nuva, who are at this point, they just can't figure out why Radok won't just stay down. Lewa Nuva is like, yo, he broke one of my swords earlier, I'm gonna get him. They're like, wait, maybe we should. He's like, no, he's mine. Radok immediately charges at him. Lewa Nuva does the good old fashioned leaving my foot out, and he's just gonna trip over my foot. And we're like, hey, that was funny. Radok gets back up. Bull rushes at Lewa Nuva again. This time Lewa Nuva kind of steps out of the way, grabs Radok by the waist, and throws him into Pohatu Nuva, who like jumps onto his back, kicks his feet up in the air, and just boom, super kicks Radok into the sky. Onua Nuva uses his massive strength to power up his leg and super jumps up, brings both hands down, smacks Radok out of the sky into the ground. As Radok is about to hit the ground, summons a fist made of earth to come up and uppercut for his massive fucking earth shoryuken. And they're like, that should do it. And they finally beat him. And they're like, whew, we did it. 1 down. free to go. Where's everybody else? And they're like, oh, this is bad. We need to take the opportunity to get everyone pulled back together. So here's what we do. Nuva summons a giant cyclone to summon up a sandstorm to kind of confuse everyone and make a distraction. Nuva runs over really quick, picks up Gali Nuva, brings it back over to Nuva. Nuva digs under the ground, circles around Avok, the one with the prisons, comes up, sneak attack, Earth Shoryukens him, which breaks his concentration, so the bars of his mental prison thing completely break down. He's able to run over and grab Kopaka Nuva. Nuva's still up and on the side, and Zaktan just kind of tosses him down onto the dirt as well. And they're like, all right, guys, what do we do? At this time, Vizok, the blue one, and Thok, the white one, show up, and they're like, oh, man, we missed out on all the fun. You guys look really worn out, other Piraka members. Oh, it should be, man, things sure would be inconvenient if we all got into a big old fight after this for who's going to be. And Zaktan's like, hey, dipshits, Thok, get in there, fight them. And he's like, yeah, if I did that, that would leave me kind of drained in case there was another fight afterwards. And Zaktan goes and turns into a green cloud of prototypes again, and he's like, hey, dipshit, I'm going to suffocate you unless you go fight them. And Thok's like, cool, no problem, man. Thok uses his ability to create, to animate inanimate objects, and creates a 50-foot tall rock golem out of the earth that comes up. And Nuva is like, bang, runs over to it, kicks up some rocks, kicks the rocks into the giant stone colossus and just destroys it, tears it apart, and makes the rock projectiles go back and hit all of the other Piraka. This is looking really good for him, except at this point, Hakan, who's just been on the side, uses the dust being settled to just go and send out really sharp mental blasts to Nuva and Nuva, who both get knocked out. Nuva is the only one left to go, and he's like, all right, this is our final stand, live or die as a Toa. Runs forward, and they all just kind of hit him. Also, one quick thing with all the Piraka. All the Piraka, that is their group, and they are thieves and murderers, and we made the Yoho Pirata joke last time because pirates. But they are, their species is called the Skakti. So they're just basically these Skakti Dark Hunters. Their species will come into play later, but I did want to go ahead and throw that in there since I didn't do it last time. So, yes.
Does that mean they're like Matoran and then they're like the Toa of them, or what?
No, the Skakti are just completely different race. So the Matoran...
So they're all that size though?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Matoran are a race that have a Matoran Toa Turaga life cycle. The Skakti are all a separate race in the same way, but like Rudaka, the Titty Bonk, who was a Vortex, and then the same way that Sidorak, whatever his species is a totally different species, or Kitongu. So there are different races. So anyway, so that was what I wanted to kind of clarify last time, because it kind of made it sound like the Toa, because up until this point we had never really seen the Toa fight in a battle ever since Greg Varsity started writing stuff. And every time before then, it was all like, oh, the Toa are just really disjointed and don't know how to work together, do teamwork. And it was all really one-sided, weird events. So this is the first time we actually see Greg Varsity write this is why we should consider the Toa Nuva actually competent fight. And so it wasn't like they just got steamrolled. It was just the Dark Hunters have had thousands of years of killing Toa to know how to deal with them. So, moving back to the present. The Toa Nuva, after meeting up with the new Matoran on Voya Nui, of the Voya Nui Resistance, which are the last remaining Matoran that aren't under the mind control of the weird green Zamor spheres, which are those balls that shoot whatever, they talk with Axon, the big axe man. He's over here. And they go, okay, well, what's the deal? They're like, okay, Axon's like, the Toa are being held in the Piraka Fortress, the Piraka Stronghold. So you guys need to get in, or I'm sorry, never mind. They're not captured. The Toa are right there talking. Your masks and weapons are being held in the Piraka Stronghold. So you guys need to go and get that there. But just be warned, there is a bit of an issue. There's another person on this island who was working with me to protect the Mask of Light, and he has kind of fallen away from the Order, and he might show up. And previous to this, and they did this in the comics and not the book, was that Axon's first reveal in the series is where all the Piraka are looking in the deep jungles of Voya Nui, looking for the Mask of Life or anything to be, and all of a sudden Axon shows up, and there's like these giant like quakes going on, and the ground splits, some of the Piraka fall in, and he just reaches in, grabs the Piraka, and throws them out. And they're like, oh, why did you save us? We're not here to help you. And Axon's like, listen, you guys need to get the hell out of here. Forget the Mask of Life. Don't come back. And they're like, but one of our guys, Vizon, the mysterious seventh member of the Piraka, he said he was looking for the Mask of Life too. And he's like, look, Vizon serves the will of the Mask of Life now. Leave now, never return. And so I think it's Vizok, the blue one, and I think it's Thok, the white one, or it might be Hakan. I can't remember. They basically try and shoot him with like heat blasts and like impact vision, and he just deflects it with his axe. He's like, lowly Piraka, you mean nothing to me, and just slaps them away. Oh, that was another fun. Then eventually, as he's fighting, he's just dominating like 3-4 different Piraka. He's just beating them the senseless, and then all of a sudden Brutaka shows up behind him and just smacks him down. He gets a sneak strike on him. And then they're like, don't worry guys, Brutaka is here to be on your team. Brutaka is the big goldy blue boy here, and he is a giant turbo chat. Also, as an addendum, I said last time I had to be a race, it'd be whatever the hell Brutaka's race is. I would like to make a change to that. I would say that it is whatever the hell race Botar is. And we'll get to Botar in a bit. So, moving back to the present, the Toa, who don't have their masks or their weapons now, plus the Voya Nui resistance of 6 Matoran, are going to storm the Piraka stronghold. As they are getting ready to do this, Hakan, the red Piraka, and I think Thok, the white one, were secretly tailing Brutaka and made the secret double deal like, hey, I know you're really after that big vat of green, mysterious liquid that Zaktan just keeps weirdly talking to. And Brutaka's like, yeah, listen, I don't care whose side I'm with, just whoever has the green stuff. That's what I just need that green stuff, man. That's all I need. I need the green. And so, as everyone is kind of, the Piraka are all kind of off doing their own thing. You know, after the huge volcanic eruption, like, half the Matoran who were working on digging out channels for it died in the eruption, so now some of the Piraka are having to help dig out stuff there, or punishing the Matoran for not working faster. And Avok and Thok are walking around in the jungle. And Thok is like, hey, Avok. And he's like, yeah, what's up? He's like, why are we digging around a volcano? He's like, this whole island is completely barren and dead. Why are we digging there for the Mask of Life if there's no life here? And the only place there is a lot of life is the jungle. And Avok is like, that's a really good point. Thok's like, could you think that maybe we've just been distracted doing other stuff now that, you know, Zaktan has this big blue gold boy that's going to help him do stuff, that's really super strong, and, you know, he might be sending us to Rook in the wrong location, so he goes and finds, and Avok is like, so he finds the mask instead of us? And Thok is like, yes, Avok, yes, good, big brain. And Avok is like, I angry, and starts storming back because he's going to go fight Zaktan. Avok busts into the Piraka stronghold. Zaktan's like, hey, did you find those Toa yet that I told you to go find and make sure they were dead? Avok is like, yeah, how dare you try and steal the Mask of Life for yourself? Zaktan's like, what? Immediately throws up a barrier around Zaktan and imprisons him. Zaktan's like, this is cute, and turns into this trillions of prototype body to just try and phase through it. But as he does, every time he hits the wall, suddenly his entire body starts it's almost like falling apart. Like, it's creating a bunch of sonic waves at a specific frequency that makes all the prototypes, like, incapable of standing together for his whole form. And he's like, yeah, you may be able to do that, but I'm Big Brain Jail Boy, and I made the perfect prison for you. And there's no way you can get out, so have fun with that. Zaktan is, like, just in there, and every breath he makes, even, like, the noise reverberates, and it comes back as this frequency that makes his body start to, like, fall apart. So he's, like, trying to struggle to be there. Thok walks in, and he's like, good job, Avok. Good job, you did it. You defeated our leader, which means there will need to be a new leader for all of us here. And that leader, I can't think of anyone better than that but me. Fuck. Hakan, the red one, walks out of the corner and was like, "Ah, man, look what I just walked into." And immediately goes and shoots like a lava blast at Avok, the brown one. And Thok is like, yo, what are you doing? If you make Avok unconscious, the prison goes down and Zaktan will get out. And Hakan's like, yeah, well, I figure even if I do that, it'll take about a good 6 to 10 seconds for Zaktan to be able to reform his body. And in that time, I can defeat all of you. And then I'll have to split it like only 3 ways for this treasure. And so Thok and Hakan start fighting. At this time, the Toa Nuva start approaching the gates. Toa Nuva uses a little bit of his elemental energy to burn through one of the locks, and then they make their way to a second door, and it's a much bigger, burly one, and they're like, oh man, how are we going to get through there? The Matoran start signaling that there is another Piraka coming, and they're like, hey, why don't we do less work and make the Piraka do it? So Lewa Nuva jumps out and is like, hey, Radok, you big, fat, dumb, stinky, ugly boy. And Radok is like, how dare? And immediately bull rushes at Lewa Nuva and just rams headfirst into the door. And Lewa Nuva repeats this like 3 more times until the door busts open. Radok goes on in, sees Zaktan in prison, Avok holding him in a prison, Thok and Hakan fighting, like trying to sharpshoot each other around and not hit Avok or Zaktan. Radok shows up and is like, why wasn't I invited? Runs over behind Hakan, bear hugs him. It was like, yo, what's up, man? And Hakan is like, Radok, what the hell are you doing? He's like, you're gonna stop. He's like, oh, see, I saw you getting in a little bit of trouble here, and I have a feeling, a strong indication that everything that's going on here is your fault somehow. So I don't understand why you're trying to sit on the sidelines. Grabs Hakan, so releases him, grabs him by the arm, and just starts spinning around and chucks him directly into Avok, who then falls over, unconscious. Zaktan's prison drops, and he starts to try and reassemble himself. The Toa Nuva and the Matoran Resistance all run in. They're like, your day is done, Piraka. It's the time of the Toa now. It's Toa time. I don't know. What other like 90s catchphrase could we...
Form of
I don't
a
count
bunch of
Matoran game.
angry Legos.
Okay, Matoran game, form of green Legos. All right, I appreciate it. So they're about to come in. The Piraka are all kind of in a disarray, and Zaktan is like, hey, Brutaka, right now, I swear to God, I'll give you the secret to the antidote if you beat up all these Toa. And Brutaka looks at Zaktan and is like, done and done. Takes his double-sided sword and just swings it once. One swing and nearly kills all 6 Toa Nuva and all 6 of the Matoran. And also, in the process, beats up all the other Piraka as well. In one swing. Brutaka is such a chat, defeats 6 Toa Nuva, 6 Matoran, and effectively 4 Piraka who are all fighting amongst themselves. And Zaktan's like, good, alright, now we can get rid of them for realsies. Take their, gather them up, take the Matoran, whatever. This leads us back to, the Toa Nuva are now imprisoned, the Matoran Resistance are imprisoned, Brutaka's defeated them all. All of the Piraka are like, oh, we just fucked up a whole lot. We're all in a lot of big... Dad's mad. Dad's really mad. I don't want to... Just don't say anything. Dad's real mad. Because they all realize that, like, at this point, Zaktan is like, I could kill all of you. But I'm not gonna. Because you're useful little tools to me. And we're gonna find the Mask of Life. And once we do, I'm gonna destroy you. But until that time... keep being useful little tools. At the same time, on the far other side of the island, 6 canisters wash up on the shore of Voida Nui. As they're washing up, in a storm, this is a horrible storm going on, lightning starts striking everywhere. The red star in the distant sky strikes down a red bolt of lightning that splits off and hits all 6 of the canisters. And out of the canisters will emerge not 6 Matoran, but 6 brand new Toa. All the Matoran have just suddenly become brand new Toa, and they emerge from the canisters. And that is the end of Book 2, Dark Destiny, which will lead us directly, yes.
Did they make toys of the new
They
Toa?
did make toys of... They did make toys of these, and these were known as the new Toa team as the Toa Inika. Inika is the Matoran word for lightning. So they are effectively, because they were created by a bolt of magic lightning, they're known as the Inika. Yes, Jason.
So I forgot this detail. So does that mean that motherfucker Akmau is actually a Toa?
No. It's the Akmal is still a little asshole somewhere else.
Okay.
We're talking about Jala and Jala and Kongu, Huki, Nuparu.
For some reason I thought he was on the
Matoran.
team.
No. He's not. No, he's not. His relevance as a Matoran completely doesn't exist anymore until way later on. Yes.
Did they make toys of the magical lightning? Fuck you!
No, he did not make toys of the magical lightning. But they did have a way to represent this because, so in book 3, Power Play. Cool. The new 6 Toa walk outside of their canisters. And as they are doing this, Zaktan and the other Piraka are sitting around and they're trying to figure out what to do and where they're going to go to find where the Mask of Light is because they're still looking for it. In the night sky suddenly appears 6 brand new stars. 6 brand new Toa stars. And Zaktan is like, God damn it! More Toa! Shit! We keep having to deal with these guys. They just won't stop coming. Alright, boys. Get ready to ride. I guess we're going to have to deal with this now. The 6 Toa Inika emerge from their canisters, all looking at each other like, who the hell are you? Who the hell am I? Who the hell are you? Who the hell am I? I'm Kongu. And like Kongu is just like, my name is Kongu. I'm a Lamatoran. I'm not a Toa or whatever. And they all start coming out and they're all these really strong figures. Their bodies are kind of like accentuated by lightning, like just like crackling around their body. And they all kind of look at each other and they're like, whoa. They're looking at each other's masks and they're like, I've never seen masks like those before. What do you think they do? And they're like, how should we know? Like, we don't know what any of these masks do. So they're looking at each other and they're like, whoa, this is weird. And they're like, oh man, I touched my mask and ooh, this is weird. It almost feels like it's organic. This is weird. And they're like, what happens if we take our mask off? So Holly takes her mask off and giant green lights just start beaming out of her face and everyone's like, no, put that back on.
It's like Cyclops. Ah, no.
It really is.
I did not realize there was a story reason for why they are like...
Yeah, they have these weird like green glow eyes there and the masks. Well, the head came off like that.
Decapitation.
But the other thing that was really cool is, so they all get these new weapons and they added little batteries in there so you can make them light up. The batteries are dead, unfortunately, in these, so I can't make them light up here. Yeah, I know, big yikes, big sad, big boo.
Mimi's sad.
Mimi's sad boy. Mimi's sad boy. And to coincide with this, this new feature came what is one of the greatest campaigns they did with Bionicle, which was the Save the Band campaign. So back in 2006, you know what was really popular? All-American Rejects. You know who decided to work with Lego and Bionicle to do something like that? All-American Rejects. And so to this day, there was like, I think it's SaveTheBand.com /Lego or something right now. And it was that the Piraka had gone and kidnapped the American punk rock, not punk, like alt rock band, All American Rejects, and stolen them and taken them to the island of Oyanui. And the Toa and Inika have to go and save them. You can enter sweepstakes and win stuff. You can figure out where on the island of Oyanui. And they were riding around and all their tours had Bionicle stuff all on their vans and stuff. Was the Save the Band tour?
What are you
Was it worth it though?
You get to them, right? And the Piraka just fucking murder you. I'm gonna save you! No, there are band now.
No, yeah. So,
Save the band.
Save the band. I'm sure it is. Yes, Kristen.
Was there a canon purpose to that band being abducted?
There's no canon purpose for the band being abducted other than just a neat promotional tie-in for a popular band at the time wanting to get involved with Bionicle. Also, when the Toa and Inika came out, the commercial they used for the Toa and Inika, they used the track Move Along by the All-American Rejects to coincide with this. Yes, Tristan.
So it's not canon to say that Piraka are the deadheads of the All-American Rejects.
So, it is a little bit contentious because you do have some people who believe that because Lego did promote it and kind of wrote it into things that the All-American Rejects were captured that some people do believe that this is technically canon. However, since Greg Barshti has kind of been like, I wasn't involved with any marketing stuff on that, and I'm the big story guy, so I don't think it happened. Yes, Jason.
So do they make toys of all American?
They no, they do. You know what? I'm
All
sure.
American reject Bionicle.
No, I don't think they've made All American Reject Bonkles.
Missed opportunity.
You know what? That's a good thing I like to see. Hey, Bionicle people, show
Or
me your.
like little Lego dudes. They could have.
Hey, Bionicle people, right now, go and show me your All American Reject mocks. I want to see them. I see you make all sorts of titty bonkles. Where's my All American Reject bonkles?
It's just like their ripped off faces. It's like
Brilliant.
Damn it.
Well, we just wanted these new Toa have some fleshy masks.
Yes, they would. Yeah, you know,
They're made from the All
they're made
American
from the.
Rejects.
They're masks are made from the All American Rejects.
It's their dirty little secret.
Well played. Well played.
I gotta go home.
My mom said I can't hang out with you guys anymore. All right, so they realize, so they try like shooting out some of their elementals because they're like, all right, cool, we're on this island, we've got to go and save the Toa Nuva. It can't be this easy to find our elemental abilities and mass powers. I mean, we heard the stories of the Toa Metro and how hard it was for them, and then they just start ripping off some of their like elemental powers. They're like, oh, ALML, that's really easy actually. Wow, what the hell? And they notice that when they shoot out some of their elemental abilities like fire or ice or whatever, they're interlaced with lightning. So they're like dual wielding. Hell yeah, they spec'd into the chain lightning class.
No.
So they're like, okay, well, what do we do about this whole mask thing? I can't do whatever, you know, I don't really understand, you know, how are we going to figure out what our masks are? And all of a sudden, Matoro just drops fucking dead. And they're like, what happened to Matoro? They're like, and they go over and they're like, Matoro, wake up, buddy. Are you there? Matoro is just like lifeless. And all of a sudden, like, Holly is off in the corner, is like, no, totally, I understand. Like, just talking to the air is like, look, they think that you're dead. And they're like, Holly, what are you doing? Like, who are you talking to? They're like, Matoro, he's right here. Can't you guys see him? And they're like, no, his body's, what are you talking about? All of a sudden, like, Matoro, like, just like Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction, just comes back to life. And they're like, oh, and they're like, what happened? They're like, oh yeah, I was able to turn my ability intangible. Matoro wears
Astral projection.
yes, the mask of astral projection. Kanohi Eden, I believe it is. And he's like, yo, I found there was like Matoran, there's some run around, there's some dudes that don't look like good guys up way over in the mountains over there because I was able to fly over there as a ghost, and now I'm back, so I guess that's the direction we gotta go in. And they're like, okay, well, how do we get there? And all of a sudden, like, Kongu starts hearing the individual thoughts of all the other Anika around him and what they think they should do. And he's like, oh man, I can't turn this mask of telepathy off. God damn it. So now he's just constantly hearing everything in this chatter. And he's like, this is weird, it's whatever. And they're like, all right, guys, you know, what would be, I was like, all right, well, maybe we need to figure out whatever. And all of a sudden, Nuparu, the Tony Stark Onimatoran, just zips up into the air. And they're like, and Kongu is like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm the Toa of air. Why do I not get the mask of flight? Nuparu has the mask of flight. And he's just zipping around. I think it's the Great Kanohi Kadin. So he's able to just fly around, and they're like, oh my god, he's zooming around, and he looks like he's gonna eventually crash land. They're like, oh yeah, he doesn't know how to stop. And Kongu's like, listen, man, maybe we should just trade masks. We could, you know, I'm the one with I ride on the Gukko Forest. You know, I'm really good at flying things. Like your Onimatoran is not so good at that. Maybe you should do it. And Nuparu for a good second is like, you know what, Kongu, that does make a lot of sense. So maybe you should have it. But for whatever reason, fate and the Great Spirit willed it so that I would be given the mask of flight. So I guess I'm just gonna stick with it for now. And Kongu's like, God damn it!
What mask is
Yes.
it?
Since the new Bionicles on the rule masks, are they still collectible or how?
They are not collectible. After the Toa Mata and everything, they stopped doing the collectible masks. So the Toa Metru, they did the discs. And then after that, they really didn't make masks a big thing you could buy in package sets to collect.
So what was collectible this time?
The collectible this time was more of the little shooty spheres. the Zamor spheres.
Okay.
But there weren't so much collectible as they were just like, hey, these
You
kids are
want
gonna
more
shoot.
bulbs?
You want more balls to shoot?
Bulbs to shoot?
Because they realize they're like, these kids are gonna have these little choking hazards to shoot at their friends all day, and they're probably gonna lose them under your bed or whatever. So buy more ammunition, kids. It's like Nerf darts.
Yeah, that's
This
what I
is
was
when
about
the
to say.
stomps or bonkles went down. There's no more.
Speaking of which, I believe that Nerf actually did do a tie-in with Bionicle to make Nerf Zamor sphere launchers, and these giant balls that just shoot out at people. And so the thing. Also, they made like a yo-yo ball at the same time because it was Yo-Yo Piraka. Ha ha ha.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, kill me. So that was the big collectible there, and even with like the Hordika and the Visorak and everything, the spinners were the big thing. It was mostly just from this point on, the collectibles they're all just gonna be extra ammunition packs for pretty much. Yeah, Sasha, you had a question.
I don't remember it now.
Something about the new Toa, something about
Oh yeah, so if he didn't get a flight, what did he get?
Okay, so the Lamator and Kongu, he got the mask of telepathy. Because
Oh,
remember,
he did? Okay,
because
okay.
he put that mask on earlier and they already knew that it was a mask of telepathy.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So he got to keep that. So now he can hear everything.
Yes, when I think of air, I think of telepathy as well. and not
Right.
flight.
Yeah, I know, right? That's just a Toa of Earth, he can fly. Perfect sense. Perfect
He's
sense.
as far away from it as
Well,
possible.
he has Earth powers already, yes?
Yes.
Now he has Earth and air powers.
Oh, so he's Airbender like in train. He's the Avatar.
He's
Nuparu.
got the yin and the yang.
Nuparu is Tony Stark and the Avatar. He's working on it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's the same dude, yeah.
Yeah. So man, way to stack the deck over here. So everyone else was like, okay, well, what else? Their master was like, we don't have time to figure that out. Let's go ahead and start running over there. So the Toa and Nika start running up the side of these, into the jungle. So they're trying to go figure out where they need to be. As this is happening, Balta, I believe it is, it's either Balta or Garan, one of the Voyanui Matoran, wakes up and realizes that they've been passed out and one of them is missing, and they're like, oh crap, oh, they're gonna kill us. Those Piraka are gonna totally kill us. Where are they? They're probably torturing my friend. I'm gonna go save them. So he rouses the other to help them kind of break out of the little room they're in, and they see that they have one of their other friends, I believe it's Dalu, and they're basically like holding them over and just like mind blasting them to try and get information. And they're like, where's the other Toa at? Who are these new Toa that showed up? Why didn't you tell about this? Where's the mask live? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So the Tauren come in and pull some trickery to kind of like get the two Piraka that are in there to kind of divert their resources and are able to come in, grab them, get out, because they're really small and good at escaping. So they managed to do this. They look down at the shore and they see a brand new set of 6 different colored dudes walking up, and they're like, yes, more Toa. Okay, cool. We can actually trust these. I bet these guys are actually Toa this time. So they meet up with the Toa and Nika, and they're like, oh, hey guys, listen. So they relay all the details of everything that's happened so far. And they're like, oh, by the way, Velika here is our just general hacksmith, and just can make anything out of anything. And Nuparu, who is the Tony Stark, goes, that's pretty interesting. And so him and Velika start talking it up, and they all start like trading off ideas. Anyway, so Velika has made some different prototype versions of the same Zamor sphere launchers that the Piraka have been using. They're like, great, cool. So we use these. Oh, what do we do with ammunition for this? Axon shows up. I was like, hey guys. So everything's really kind of bad over there. It's not a great scene. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you Zamor spheres. They're filled with energized protodermis. And they're like, wait, isn't that the stuff that destroys things and makes them either turn into great things or explode? And they're like, yes, normally. But if you hit somebody with one of these Zamor spheres, these special energized protodermis ones, it will counteract the effect of the Zamor spheres they have been hit with before, that are called antidermis. It'll counteract the effect and free them of the mind control. And they're like, okay, cool, great. When do we find out how do we use these? And he's like, right now! So they run off to like the Matoran settlement where they have all the brainwashed zombie Matoran, and they start gunning them down with these energized protodermis spheres. And all the Matoran are like, oh wow, great, I'm free. What happened to everybody? And they're like, there's a lot to fill in, guys. We'll get to that later, but let's go ahead and make sure everyone's free from this mind stuff first. We need to get back at the mountain. They start going up, getting closer to the Piraka stronghold, because they are like, yeah, the Toa Nuva are there. Hopefully, we didn't see them there, but that's probably where they're going to be. We need to go find them. the Toa Nika are going up the mountain, and they come to a part where they have to like cross over like a lava threshold or something. And so they're like, all right, Nuparu, you're gonna have to fly us over one at a time. And so they do. And as they're like walking through the jungles and stuff, like Holly starts like having like, oh man, bad migraine. Oh, this is. But only if we go in a certain direction. And they're like, okay, that's a little weird. Maybe your mask can actually sense where the mask of life is. Because as we keep going in certain directions, like it's almost like a what's the word with the little rods and they point dowsing.
Divination rods?
Yeah, divination rods or like dowsing rods. That's kind of her mask, is the mask of detection, which can detect the mask of life or other spirits, which is why she could see Motoro when he was in ghosty Astral Boy form. So Nuparu is carrying them over one by one and is carrying Holly, and he's getting a little kind of crazy. He's like, oh man, this flying thing's really cool. Being on the ground all the time, not so cool after all. Flying's pretty cool. Oh no, I almost dropped Holly! And Holly starts falling, and Jala is like, oh no, can't let this happen. Immediately runs out, jumps, does a flip, catches Holly in midair, does another flip, because he's like, there's no way I'm going to make this. I'm just going to fall down in lava. Upon impact of catching Holly, manages to like change his trajectory and do another flip and land on the other side. I want to say this is Jala wears the Kanohi, the Great Kanohi Calyx, I believe it is, which is the Great Kanohi mask of rolling straight d20s. It is the mask of fate. Jala wears the mask of fate, which allows you to accomplish any physical feat, to accomplish or achieve incredibly insane physical feats, so long as they are actually tangibly possible. So like the reasoning on this is he was able to run up and do a flip, catch Holly upon the point where he transferred his motion into a different direction and like restarted that motion it's weird. So yeah, he just wears this where you just pull out d20s all the time, just critical successes. So like, wow, that was pretty cool. And so they're going up, and they find these like robotic sentries on the side of the mountain there that start like beaming out Zamorpheres, and they're like, that's not good. We need to fight those things. So they shoot them up a little bit, and they just not do anything. And the Velika and some of the other Matorn are like, go. Those are called Nektan. They're really, really hard that you can't really. They're really well shielded on all other sides, except from underneath. And Nuparu is like, all right, cool. So Nuparu flies up and starts drawing fire so they can try and figure out a way to get there. And they're like, oh no. And so the Piraka start kind of getting mixed up in things. One thing leads to another. And Nuparu, because Velika says, once again, Velika speaks in riddles the entire time. And says some really obscure and esoteric babble. And Nuparu takes it to mean, oh, cool, I have a drill gun. I'm going to laser drill my way into the ground while flying and tunnel up underside of these robots and destroy them. Like a giant flying mole man that I am. And does that. And they're like, cool, great, we destroyed them. And then the robots start to try and reform themselves. They're like, oh yeah, they can rebuild themselves, so we gotta get going. It is at this point where they finally make it to the Piraka stronghold. And they kick down the door. And are like, alrighty, Piraka, we're here to rock ya.
I'm really going home now.
Or whatever they say. And so they all start immediately squaring off with each other. Avak goes to fight Kongu. So Avak is like, cool, imprison you in a vacuum space. So all of a sudden, Kongu can't breathe, and he's like, oh crap, what do I do? Oh, massive telepathy, and he just goes into Avak's mind and just starts screaming and making a loud, just mental noise, until Avak is like, oh geez, stop it, no! And drops the prison and passes out there. Over here, Zaktan winds up fighting Nuparu, and so Nuparu like starts trying to fight up through him, and just give me a 1 minute warning too. And Zaktan's like, yeah, prototypes can't really hit me, I just phase out of the way. And Nuparu's like, cool, what about this? And starts flying around the room and like twisting his body, creating kind of like a vortex, and rams through Zaktan, which he's like, cool, I dispersed, and all his prototypes start getting caught in this vortex. And so Nuparu's like riding around this entire room, just flying around with this green squirrel after him that's made of Zactan, and he cracks his body like a whip and slams all the Zactan pieces against the wall and knocks him the fuck out. And I was like, wow, good, effective. Immediately, because the big thing here is you're like, okay, well, why are these Matoran just so OP? Like, this is day one of them being a Toa. Why are these guys just so OP all of a sudden? And Jala keeps making the whole statement that, we've listened to all of the Piraga's tales, we've seen all the things that the Toa have done. We're not going to be like what they did. We're going to learn from their mistakes. We're not going to rush into things. We're going to work as a team. We're going to, we've seen so many great things. We can emulate this, and we have so much referential material to work from to be successful. So they all get into the fighting there. Brutaka shows up, and Brutaka's like, hey, you guys need to stop that right now. And Huki starts throwing up walls of rock to start throwing rocks at Brutaka. And Brutaka is just slicing through them with his giant sword. And he's like, you think this could stop a member of the Order of Motunui? You think this does anything to me? And Huki's like, I don't know, it's a great distraction though. And he's like, what? And Huki starts summoning rocks out of the ground and shooting them and ricocheting them off the walls and stuff, and they all just hit Brutaka. He's like, oh, stop, no, that's really annoying. Huki wears a great mask of accuracy, so he can make really great pinpoint shots. He also has a laser axe and a laser chain that comes from it. Huki is part of the chain gang. For reference, chain gang. Also, interesting, so this is the first Pometru or Pomatoran that we don't get brown coloring for everything. They changed it to this iron gray and heat orange coloring for stuff, which was really neat at the time. That's I think why I picked them up. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Actually, I like the difference in the color design that we went here, the gunmetal and such. Oh, that was the other thing. All the Toa and Nika have different weapons. Jala has a flame sword. Matoro has an ice sword. Holly has a laser harpoon. Nuparu has a laser drill. Kongu has a laser crossbow. And Huki has a laser axe. Or whatever. So Huki opens up this giant space in the ground and just drops Brutaka straight through the stone. And he just keeps falling and then closes the ground back up. And they're like, you think that'll stop him? And he's like, no, but it'll keep him busy for a little bit. It's at this point that the Toa are all actually doing really well. They are just knocking down one after another of the Piraka. They're doing pretty good. What could go wrong? Hakan can show up. That's what can go wrong. Hakan, the red Piraka, shows up and he's like, oh, I got this really cool Zamor sphere. Want to see what it does? And we'll go ahead and take a break right here, and then we'll continue when we get back.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Not the Japanese.
Dude, when I go up to kids, I'd be like, Omae wa mo tsunderu. And they'd be like,
Yes! And they're like, oh my, and they're like, no, God, not the Japanese.
No, I'll never forgive the Japanese for this. Alright, so. Cool. Hakan shows up. He's got this special glowy gold Zamor sphere. Ooh, magic. What does it do? Hakan says, hey, Lamau, I see Brutaka over there. He's kind of digging himself out of the ground. And I'm going to shoot that dude. And I'm going to get all his power with this. Thok is on the other side of the room and sees Hakan and was like, oh, no, you don't. Not without me. And runs over to Hakan, who shoots this Zamor sphere at Brutaka as he is trying to push himself out of the ground that he was digging himself out. And when he hits Brutaka dead on, all of a sudden, all of Brutaka's power starts barreling towards Hakan. Thok grabs onto Hakan, and they both get all of Brutaka's combined power joined into their bodies. And now they are super ultra giga charged. And they are like, boom! You thought Brutaka was a straight up Kyle and he was drinking antidermis and punching through drywall Toa like they were his stepdad? You ain't seen nothing now. Because now you've got two Piraka who are already really super strong. And then they have the power now with all that supercharged Kyle energy. And they're like, hey, wow, we are so strong. And so the 6 Toa and Nika all unite. throw out their laser energy beams all at them, and they're just completely unfazed. And they're like, LMAO, don't care. And just immediately gun up the entire place with their like lava launcher and an ice launcher. Boom! Everyone's knocked out. All the other Piraka, knocked out. Done. All of the Toa Nika, done. Knocked out. Brutaka still stuck in the ground. He's knocked out too. When the Toa Nika come to, the other Piraka are all still there, and except for Thok and Hakan, and Brutaka is off in the corner, and he is out of the ground at this point. Axon shows up at this point, and he's like, oh man, this is not good. And they're like, what do you mean this is really not, I mean, well, obviously it's really not good, but what do you mean? They're like, Brutaka's over there, which means, and they're like, Thok and Hakan went up to Brutaka and told them that they would kill him if he didn't reveal where the Mask of Life was hidden. And he's like, yeah, exactly. So we need to go catch those guys right now. So the other Piraka are like, yeah, we're gonna bounce on this one. And Axon's like, no, you aren't, dickheads. Because I've got this big swingy axe, and I've got a bunch of Toa with lightning powers, and they already beat you up before. So you're gonna come with us, and you're gonna help us catch the other two. Yes.
So what are the colors of the two that drain?
The red and the white one. So the fire and ice one. Which notably, all of the Skakti as a species can use elemental powers like the Toa, but only if they are using them in conjunction with another Skakti member. So it's like if the brown one and the red one use them together, they can create like lava and magma together, but individually they cannot just control fire or stone. They can use their abilities in tandem with each other, just not individually. Which doesn't work out well because they're all trying to kill each other anyway at the same time, so they don't really like working with each other anyway. So they all start barreling up the mountain. Thok and Hakan just start vaporizing shit left and right. They're like, dude, we're so powerful. We're such dudely, studly dudes. We're so great and powerful. No one can stop me. And Hakan's like, yeah, except that you stole half the power, you dickhead. And Thok's like, yeah, well, I was going to let you have all the power to yourself. And now we're stronger than everyone else. We only have to split it 2 ways. And immediately they're both like, but what if we could only split it 1 way? And they start going after each other. It's like, oh yeah, exactly. Lava launcher. And Thok's like, hey, nice try, dickhead. Uses his ability to animate inanimate objects and turns all the plant life into giant tentacle monsters that are like trees pulling out of the ground to wrap around Hakan, who is like laser beaming them to try and get them off of him, and they're fighting.
Rule 30.
Not again.
Love doesn't exist.
Yes. Well, trees exist apparently though. Hentai trees exist in the Bohrok universe.
Love involved in that transaction.
Yeah, there's that means hate fucking, I guess. It exists. So, as they're about to go up, Axon is like, hey, listen, Toa Nika, I'm going to give you this special, cool Zamor Spear. It's filled with this magical gold and stuff in it. Make sure, when you fire it, you need to hit Thok and Hakan at the same time with it. And it will return all of Brutaka's powers back to him. I'm going to stay here in case Brutaka wakes up, because I have a feeling he's not going to want to play nice with us. And I'm going to be here in case we need to have us a good old-fashioned talking to with our fists. And the Nika are like, dope. So they all run up the mountain, and they're fighting the Piraka, Thok and Hakan, and all the other Piraka go in first as like the first wave to fight Thok and Hakan, and they're just both like, hey, Lamal, don't care, not even a problem, not even sweating it. The other Toa and Nika show up, and they're like, boo, boo, lasers, lightning, all sorts of stuff, and they're doing okay. I mean, eventually the Thok and Hakan go on the defensive, and they get bumped up, because they're like, well, here's the deal. There's 11 of, or what is it, would be 10 of them? There's 10 of them and 2 of us. We team up together for right now, and then after we've killed all of them, we kill each other. And he's like, agreed. He's like, agreement. And they go back to back and start trying to fight off everybody. And the moment they go back to back and they touch, I believe it is Huki, since he has the mask of accuracy, that just lines up, yes.
Would it be accurate to say they touch butts?
Yes, you probably could say they touch butts.
Curious.
They did not cross any streams, though.
And love doesn't exist.
And love does not exist. So Huki lines up the shot, uses his massive accuracy, and bam, right at the moment, hits them with a golden Zamor sphere that saps all of Brutaka's power away from them and returns it to Brutaka. And immediately they're like, "Oh, hey guys, we were just joking around earlier. we didn't really mean that we were gonna steal.
We really sold it.
We were just gonna go and get the mask and come back, and then we're gonna share the treasure. That's all we were gonna do." And they're like, "Yeah, nice. Now let's go beat up these Toa and Aika." And the Toa and Aika are like, "What?" And they get blasted because of shenanigans. The Piraka, in this ensuing chaos of destroying a bunch of stuff, when Hakan and Thok were just vaporizing stuff, apparently found a giant underground staircase that was obscured in the jungle. And they're like, I wonder if that could lead anywhere really cool, and probably where the Mask of Life totally is hidden away from people. Definitely must be. So they start walking their way down there. The Toa and Aika get up after they're awakened a bit. After some time has passed, they're like, "Oh man, all the Piraka are gone." It's like, "Where did they go?" And they're like, "Well," and Holly is like, "Well, my head keeps hurting more if we move in this direction, and there's a giant staircase over there. I think that's where we should go." And so they begin to descend the 777 steps into the Mask of Life's hold. And that brings us to the end of Book 3, Power Play. So this will lead us to Book 4, Legacy of Evil. And Legacy of Evil is a flashback book that is all about the history of the Piraka and their individual kind of like where they came from and some things here and there. So our book begins 7,000 years ago. 7,000 years ago, there was a Toa fortress that is being under siege by various shenanigans. Apparently, these Toa had built a fortress nearby a frostless settlement, which are really good at like obscuring themselves as icicles and icebergs and stuff, so they didn't see them there. And so they're kind of fighting the fortress, and the Toa are having to fight back and deal with all this. On the way, Hakan and Vizok, the blue one and the red one, are there. And Vizok has decided that he's going to work with Hakan, who's told them that he got a really good information that there was a really cool, awesome, super secret, and amazing collectible deep within the fortress of the Toa that was really worth stealing. Hakan was like, "Okay, cool, great, let's go steal this thing." And they're scaling up, and Hakan's like, "Cool, I'm just going to hop over the edge, and I'm just going to kill this Toa that's standing guard." And Vizok is like, "No, dummy, if we get this Toa to sound the alarm, all these other Toa are going to come and fight us. We just need to bop him on the head, knock him out, and then position him so he looks like he's standing up, and no one will know that we snuck in." Because Vizok is like master sneak thief. Hakan is, "I do the lava shoot." Yes.
Why didn't they just get a trench coat and then
Just stack each other.
Yeah.
Just stack up to each other. So they sneak into the fortress. Vizok is looking around. They make their way into where the hold should be for the treasure. They make their way into a room, and on the table is this treasure. And Vizok is looking at it, and he's like, What is this? What kind of treasure? This is what the Toa are supposed to be guarding? And it is a circular, spherical stone. And he looks at it, and on the table in carving is Makoki stone. This is the same stone that the Toa Nuva had, or original Toa Mata, had to find to open up the Makuta layer the first time. And the same one that the Toa, when they were transformed into the Hordika, had to find and get the Mask of Light back in Metro Nui when they were horribly disfigured. And so Vizok is looking at this like smooth stone, and he's like, "What? This is what we came here? What is Makoki means key. So this is a key. What's it a key to? It's like what?" And so he looks at it, and like Vizok has a really, really good team. Yes.
You did the
So
same.
is it Keystone or Keystone Light?
I was thinking an 8-ball.
So it is like a sphere. So it's like a sphere.
Yeah, you said it was a Keystone.
Yes, that's what it's. Makoki stone means keystone. Makoki means key.
Gotcha.
I'm assuming there's some.
We're
There's
both
a beer.
degenerates.
There's a beer.
Is what's
There's a
happening.
beer.
He's talking about beer,
Yeah,
and I'm
beer.
talking about
Cool.
cocaine.
It's that garbage college beer pong beer that you buy.
Oh, I thought that was Natty Light.
Keystone Light is
Keystone was
like
now like
Milan.
4 Night Light.
Oh.
I started when you said Bakoki, and then you went to means
Keystone.
key.
Oh.
And then, oh, well,
And
shit.
as we know, Bionicle's drink. Keystone
Chuck.
Light.
Well, that's what Brutaka's doing. Brutaka just being a chatty here to party with the Piraka dudes at the frat house, just trying to get some green Slurpees over here. And then Toa Naika started to show up with his dad, with his stepdad axe on. Yes.
I had a question earlier. So the antidermis is like a drug effect?
Yes,
on
the
him?
antidermis. So Brutaka will drink the green antidermis, and it will supercharge him. It works like almost like a hallucinogenic, like berserker mushrooms, where it just
So he's just like cupped up.
Yes, Brutaka is just getting super coked up, and like I said, he's just punching through drywall Toa as if they were his stepdad Axon, coming to tell him that he can't play with his friends.
The ultimate kind.
Area 1 and stuff.
Yeah, it's great. So man, if only Area 51, if we only had Brutaka, we would have been able to lead the Kyles in.
Those poor alien cheeks.
Still
Still
unclapped. God, no space clams were slammed that day.
How did you get here?
Why are we here? Just to suffer. So he's looking at this stone. He's trying to figure out. He's like, as he's looking at it, he's looking at the fine details of the grain of this rock, and sees in like almost microscopic print that there is writing in like a slightly more archaic form of Matoran language. But he's like, oh, there's a lot of writing on this. Someone disguised this as just like a regular stone, but let's see what's on this. And he's looking over. He's like, this stone has a wealth of information on the Brotherhood of Makuta. That's weird. The Toa work for the Brotherhood of Makuta. Why would the Toa have all this detailed, deep information inscribed on this stone about the Brotherhood of Makuta unless they don't trust the Brotherhood of Makuta? Interesting. The real treasure here is knowledge. Didn't even have to get a Lamborghini for that. Or be in your garage. It's good knowledge and a rock. Rock knowledge, yes.
So you kind of described it. Is there a picture, maybe a toy of this keystone?
There is not a picture or toy of this keystone. Actually,
It's
I was gonna say I don't see any rocks over here, but it'd be about the same thing.
It's just rock.
Rocks. So
Do
anyway,
you have microscopic vision?
do you have microscopic vision?
To read the intricately carved.
So Vizok and so Hakan senses that because basically what happened was Vizok had sent Hakan out to just the front of the gates and said, "Hey, they were standing on the edge and they're like, okay, well, how do we draw the Toa away earlier?" And Vizok's just like this and pushes Hakan off the edge and like right in front of all the Toa. And they're like, hey, who the hell is that guy? And Hakan is like, I will get you for this. And so Hakan starts fighting through all the Toa, and unfortunately, Hakan and Vizok do manage to escape and meet up with their who is supposed to be their informant, and the entire fortress does fall to the army of Frostalis, except for one Toa who manages to escape alive, and that Toa was Toa Lacan, when he was a fresh, brand new Toa. It was one of his first things, and he was the only survivor of that incident and managed to make it back.
Oh, so he was real fucking old.
Yes, Toa Lacan dies about 6,000 years after being a Toa. So, as they make their way back, they're like, oh man, this is great. We're going to get the things. And then they both kind of get bumped on their head and knocked out. They wake up in front of the Shadowed One, leader of the Dark Hunters, who is there and is like, oh, hey boys, what you got there? And Vizok's like, Vizok is able to like assess the situation very clearly that they are somewhere, they have no idea where they were brought to, and will not ever really know how to escape or anything. There are a bunch of powerful, like he looks at the Shadow One and knows immediately he is the biggest, dickest, ballest swingerist in the room. Yes.
It's hot as fuck, bro.
Oh, it's not fun, bro. You ever see what happens when you mix a Rudaka with a Kitangu? You get the Shadowed One. That's fuck. So, the Shadow One's sitting on his throne. He's just like really imposing. And he's like, I found this stone. And he's like, yeah, so I sent one of my agents that was supposed to go there. And he was supposed to grab this stone. Where did you happen to get this? And Vizok is like, there's no point in me trying to bullshit this dude. Like, he could kill me with his looks, probably. And he's like, Hakan got the information from a Matoran informant. And, like, he looks at them, and he's like, wow, it must have been a really smart Matoran to have secret detailed knowledge about a Toa fortress. That sure is interesting. And looks at Hakan, and he was like, okay, so maybe it wasn't a Matoran who told me this. So they're like, shit. And he looks into like the corner of the room, and there's four more Skakti in the room, and they're all just kind of standing around looking at him. And one of the Shadow One's like, yeah. So Vizok is like, hey, listen, maybe we could. He's like, shut the fuck up, little dirty Piraka. And he's like, whoa, you can't just say, I don't like the way you said Piraka. And but then he's like, okay, well, I mean, at least it's accurate. It means, a little bit, I guess. And so another member brings this other guy into the chamber room in chains, and he goes, yeah, so apparently you guys got the information from one of my other agents who decided he was going to sell you this information and then sell the relic through you guys. So he, betrayed me, and, that's not cool because, this is what we do to traitors. And he brings them up in front of him, and, like, the guy starts to try and say something, and just laser beams come out of the Shadow One's eye and just instantly vaporizes him into dust. And he's like, I hate a traitor, but I despise an incompetent one. He's like, if you're ever going to betray me, don't let me find out. He's like, just don't let me find out. He's like, I hate traitors, but I despise incompetence. So he's like, so here's the deal. We're going to give you guys the opportunity to join us, the Dark Hunters. We're going to give you a little test. And you can either accept this, or we will kill you right now. And they're like, I mean, man, sure are, pulling my arms here, man, I don't know. What? They're like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. What's this test we have to do? So they go out into the courtyard, and they see Lariska, who is this, who's a female with the one arm from earlier that was throwing the knives, and she is fighting King Siparak, who is running around. He's like, oh, I'm going to fight you. I could win. I could be really strong. And she is just like beating the dog shit out and slapping him around, and just completely defeats him. And Hakan and Vizok are just like, weakling. Pathetic. Oh, jeez. I almost knocked it over. My foot went over this way. Anyway, so they're like, oh, who's that? He's like, oh, that's Sidarak. Fortunate enough for him, he may be useful later since he's a king of a place. So we're just gonna send him back to his island and keep him on good reference. But he's dead. He was gonna try and be a dark hunter, but he just does not have the stuff for it. and like Hakan's like, so when is it my turn to do the stuff? And he's like, go in right now. So Hakan jumps down into the Colosseum pit. Lurska's like, all right, boy, you sure you want to do this? And Hakan's like, grabs her and just starts smashing around like smacking the shit out of Lariska. She's trying to fight back, and he is just hulking out on her, just ragdolling around. Breaks her. He's like, I did it. I was the winner. And then Lariska jumps up because she was faking being down and puts a knife to the throat. She's like, yeah, first of all, being dark, being dark hunter stuff. Like, make sure your opponent's actually dead before you walk away from them. And so the Shattered One is like, all right, Vizok, your friend here is in this situation. Should we kill him, or do you think he passed his test? And Vizok's like, kill him. And Hakan's like, fuck you, dude. And the Shadow One's like, cool, Lariska, drop them. They both passed their tests. And so that's their entrance into the Dark Hunters. Fast forward to 5,000 years later.
Jesus.
So 2,000 years go by. The Skaktis, these guys, these Piraka have been, they've joined together kind of as a group, and they're all working together. And Zaktan is going up to Vizok and is like, cool, so are you in or are you out? And Vizok's like, listen, man, we're talking about some serious stuff. I don't really know about this. He's like, look, the only person we didn't tell about this plan is Avok, because we can't trust him. But we can do this. And he's like, you understand what will happen if I say yes to this, correct? And Zaktan is like, you understand what I will do to you if you say no, correct? And Vizok's like, man, sure, just breaking my balls here, man. He's like, all right, so are you sure this can be done? He's like, yes, we can kill the Shattered One. For sure. We can do this. And he's like, all right, cool. Okay, so what's the deal here? So he's like, all right, so first off, you're going to go up to, there is a, I think his name is Experiment. I can't remember the name exactly, but he's a dark hunter that was created out of two Toa that got fused together. They fell into like energized protodermis and got fused together, and their teammates ran away because they thought they were a monster or whatever. He's not really smart, but he's really strong. And he's like, you're gonna go over and distract him. And he's like, we're gonna go in after that. So we'll get out of the way. Nothing's gonna be. We'll take care of a lot of other stuff, and then we'll go in. We'll go and kill the Shadow One. It's a done deal, easy deal. So, okay, so he goes up. He's like, hey, Eliminator or whatever her name is. Listen, why aren't the Shadow One has requested your presence over on the other side of the island? And he's like, oh, what do you mean? The Shadow One is inside the big room over here. And he's like, I was like, that's what I thought he was. He's like, do you expect the Shadow One to tell you where he's going to be at all times? Now go over to the other island, or you can explain to him why you didn't show up earlier. And he's like, makes sense to me. Starts walking off the other side. So the Piraka sneak in, and they start scouting out everything. They make their way into the housing area or whatever this big place is where the Shadow One's throne is, and they start traveling down the tunnels, and all of a sudden they loop around, and they're like, wait a second, we're back where we started. What? And they're like, no, this must be a mistake. So they start turning through corners, and they go down the door, and they open up, and it's a dead end. They're like, wait, this dead end wasn't here yesterday. What the hell is going on? And they keep running into the same thing and falling in more and more and more and more dead ends, and they're like, oh, and they all like have this like horrible sinking feeling. They're like, oh no, we fucked up. Until they turn a corner and the Shadow One's on the throne. He's like, oh, what's up, guys? So you guys thought you could kill me? Really? That's real funny. Why don't you guys come up here? That's these funny guys. When these funny guys come up here to me to try and kill me, the Shadow One, the guy. I am the guy. These funny guys try to kill me. That really sucks. Boom! Laser beams out. Immediately hits Zaktan and vaporizes him. But he doesn't die. Zaktan's body, for whatever reason, instead of turning to dust, turns into trillions of prototypes. He was originally one whole person. Now he's like the weird mass of like little bits and pieces that he is now. And he's like, and the Shadow One is like, well, that was unexpected. Well, that was just cool enough that I'm not going to kill the rest of you. So keep that as a lesson and enjoy your punishment. And the Piraka end up receiving some punishment stuff. Fast forward to 4,000 years ago. So this is another, so 1,000 years later. Avok, I believe it's Avok, Thok, and Radok are, oh no, it's Vizok. It's Vizok, Avok, and Radok, I believe, are on a boat, and they're outlining on the city of Metro Nui. And they're like, man, do you think this thing is really here? He's like, yeah, this is just really annoying. He's like, the Shadowed One has been trying to get a foothold in the city of Metro Nui for a long time. He's like, he's getting more and more or less patient. So it's around here somewhere. If we can get this thing out, it'll this is our mission here. And you're like, all right. So he's like, well, one of us has to go. And Vizok's like, okay, I'll go down. Avok, stay with the boat. And Avok's like, can do. And he's like, Avok, keep the boat here. And he's like, damn it. So Vizok goes down and he uses his impact blast to bust open this giant rock slab, and out of it, vast amounts of heat, like blazingly melting heat, starts erupting out from underwater and smoke. And this giant, massive dragon starts swirling out of this cavern and is making its way up. And they're like, man, I heard the legends that there was a Kanohi dragon, just that Toa had sealed it underwater here. What? Yes, Chris.
Toy of Kanohi.
Okay, so the Kanohi dragon was, okay, so remember when I showed you that big book of Rahi, all the animals and stuff? Mm-hmm. They held some other contests, and one of them was for another Rahi. The winner of that was someone who made a Kanohi dragon, and that is the one that they made that over. It is different than the Tatarak. Those were two different competitions. Both winners, their Rahi beasts were there. So there is like a design of it. I don't know if you can find the schematics for it. Jason, was that the answer to your question there?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because that's the other thing is the one that asks what is...
Yeah, the answer to the question is the Tatarak. So, the Kanohi dragon immediately emerges after being submerged for God knows how long, looks over at Metro Nui and is like, man, that great furnace seems like there's got a lot of heat in there. I bet I could get me some yum nom noms. And immediately starts making its way over to the city of Metro Nui, busts over onto the island, starts destroying parts of the archives as he walks around and just destroying stuff, making his way towards the great furnace. And Mavra, the Onimatoran from way, way before, who was the Rahi kind of archivist dude, went crazy. He was like, wow, Kenobi Dragon, that's so cool. Make his way to the Great Furnace. As this is happening, Radok, Thok, and Avok make their way to the Colosseum where Turaga Duma is. And they're like, oh man, hey Turaga Duma, man, that sure is a shame that there's this Kenobi Dragon out there. That sure is crazy that there's a Kenobi Dragon out there. So it's crazy to be ashamed if more stuff like that happened. I mean, this all could be really easily, gotten, nothing, we don't have to keep doing this, if you would just let us set up a Dark Hunter base on the island of Metru Nui, other things like this wouldn't have to happen. And Turaga Duma is like, suck a dick. No way. There's like, I will die before we put a Dark Hunter base on the island. And he's like, no problem, bud, we can arrange that. And as he's about to go in, Toa Lakan, boom, busts in through the door, followed by Toa Nadiki and 7 other Toa. And they're like, we made it just in time, boss. Yes.
I thought you said that Nadiki was not confirmed Toa.
This is where they confirmed Toa. So they did confirm that Nadiki was a Toa back in Time Trap, just by, what's his name? By the Shadowed One saying that he was. They have not explained how Nadiki got to how he looks like
But
that.
like the green Toa, was that Nadiki?
No, those sets had already been out by that point.
Right.
So that was 2005. We're in 2006. By the time this story is coming out. So the green, like Toa Haga Iruni, like we knew from Time Trap, which came out in the same year as those did, that we knew that. Have you ever just, that's all I'm doing now. We knew that Toy, yes.
Hold that thought.
All right, here we go. All right, so they did make so this is also the whole Toa Nadiki thing. This being in the story reinforces why a lot of people believe that the Toa Haga Haruni was supposed to be the Toa Nadiki, but we never got one for it. So anyway, Toa Nadiki, Toa Lakan, and yes, Tristan.
You said 7 other Toa, so
Just 7 other random Toa.
So Toa Lakan worked with more than just a team.
Yes. So at this point on Metru Nui did not have any team of Toa. Metru Nui did not need any team of Toa because everybody in the Matoran universe understood how important Metru Nui was, so no one would ever even dream of attacking it. Because they knew how important the energy that Metru Nui produced and shipped off to other islands and the goods they had and how important it was in the grand scheme of things, that nobody would ever try to attack Metru Nui, so they didn't need any Toa.
So they were using like there's like geopolitical macroeconomics going on?
Exactly. So no one would attack Metru Nui because they're like, if we attack Metru Nui, we're just dooming everything. Like, they make such important exports that it's just not a good idea, like, politically.
We're not going to get chocolate bars if we attack Metru
Oh,
Nui.
we can't get Matoran taco bars! And so, Toa Lakan and these 8 other Toa,
It
including
hasn't moved. It's
I
stationary.
keep moving my foot because I want to step around it, and then I keep smacking up against the bottom of it. Look, man. Look, because I gotta put my foot underneath the leg. So anyway, eventually we'll get to the point about the Toa showing up, and they're like, and so it's like two of the Piraka, and there's 9 Toa, and they're like, yeah, this might be a fight we can't win. And they're like, all right, Jagaduma, we'll just hopefully we don't have to have any more accidents or anything happen like this again. And Toa Lakan is like, yeah, hopefully we won't. I'll personally escort you off the island. And so Toa Lakan and his team of 8 other Toa, as well as some other Toa they call in from some other islands, show up and they defeat the Kenobi Dragon, mostly from like the help of 4 Toa of Ice, who just ice laser beat, because it took a month. They fought the Kenobi Dragon for a month straight, fighting this Kenobi Dragon, and after a month, we're finally able to wear down the Toa, and the 4 Toa of Ice, was mostly them, did a lot of stuff there, were able to basically throw the Kenobi Dragon into a coma. And they took the dragon, they're like, oh man, what are we going to do with this thing? And the island of Sia, whatever it is, the weapons manufacturing place, were like, we'll take it! So Toa Lakan, comes over with the transport, with the Kenobi Dragon. He's like, are you guys sure you really want this thing? I mean, this is a pretty monstrous thing. And the vortex he speaks to, she's like, see, you guys think that it's a really big deal. On our island, we would call this a troublesome pet. And he's like, all right, I mean, if you guys are sure, what was your name again? And she's like, oh, my name's Rudaka. So now we're getting more of, backstory and some other characters there. And so Toa and the other Toa leave Alantai, and they end up going back to Metro Nui, where Turaga Duma sets up and arranges to have some Toa from different islands come and be a regular Toa team at Metro Nui, because the Dark Hunters, the Shadowed One is just so infuriated, he's like, fuck it, we're going to go all out. I'm going to claim that island as mine no matter what it takes. Fast forward 1,000 years later. We're in the middle of a Toa Dark Hunter war.
I love how they just throw out thousands of years.
Oh yeah, exactly. We
Every other place is like 6 months, couple years.
Oh, yeah.
like 1,000 years.
Oh, so that was the thing that we talked a little bit about last time with the timeline thing. Like the original quest for the masks, that took 2 months. Like the first year 1 took 2 months. Year 2 and year 3 all happened within 2 months. So the majority of the years 1 through 3 happened in a 4-month time span. And then it was oh yeah, year 4 with Metro Nui, that was 1,000 years ago. And it was everything leading up to getting back to the current time. So this is where they start throwing out these huge numbers to just show how old everything actually is and can be. So we're 3,000 years ago in the middle of the Toa Dark Hunter War. And some of the Piraka are standing around with Lariska, and they're like, think he's going to make it? They're like, I don't know, I think he is. And Toa Nadiki shows up. And he's looking around, because they're in the middle of Metro Nui, and it's guerrilla warfare going on. And he's like, all right, guys, are you sure? Are you sure this is the plan? Do you guys agree to this? And they're like, yeah, sure. Listen, Nadiki, you help us, you betray the Toa, you help us, the Dark Hunters, take over the island of Metro Nui, and we'll let you take control and be that leader of Metro Nui. And Nadiki is like, yes, this is a good idea. Awesome. Let's do it. As they are talking and discussing about this, they're like, well, we need to make our move quick. We need to make our move and go in. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to lure all the Toa into this canyon in Po Metro, and then our Dark Hunters are going to be on the sides, and we're just going to pincer snare them. They're like, great, awesome, good. And as they are talking about this, they're like, Toa Lacan shows up, and he's like, yo, Nadiki, you backstabbing bitch. I already know what's going on. They're like, oh, you can't fight all of us. And Toa Lacan's like, listen, I've already found out about your entire plan, and I'm going to let you know how this is all going to go down. You guys are going to go ahead and do your plan. You do it if you want, but we've already got people on the way, and they're just going to stomp you, and they will wipe you out. We will wipe you out if you try to continue this. So I'm going to offer you this. You guys leave. Never come back. And don't you ever let me see Nadiki again. Don't you ever let me see that traitorous piece of shit again. You guys leave, and we will spare you. And they're like, yeah, well, I don't know. Why should we believe you? And he's like, I guess we'll see. And sure enough, the Dark Hunters continue on with their plan. They're unable to capture Toa Lacan. And all the Skakti and Lorska are like, this doesn't sound good. This sounds like he's got something up his sleeve. I don't know. Do you guys think of this? You're like, you know what's going to happen if we fail this, right? We promised the Shadowed One we would get this island. We promised that we would be able to do this. And they're like, we got to do this then. And so, obviously they were planning on not letting Nadiki rule Metro Nui. They were just going to say that to him and convince him to betray all the other Toa and let them know their location, so that after they did that, and take over Metro Nui and just kill Nadiki. So everything goes as planned. The Toa are funneled into this canyon and ravine. The Dark Hunters show up on the side, and then 300 Toa show up outside on the top there, and it's just layered down. And they're like, "All right, you guys are playing this game. We got 300 more Toa up here. We shipped them in overnight, literally. They came in disguised in shipping containers and stuff as just general cargo and goods to sneak onto the island." And it was a complete Dark Hunter surrender. And all of the Dark Hunters were sent back to, their island, and Nadiki was banished with them as a now ex-Toa, and broke Toa Lacan's heart. He was like, "You were my brother, man. You betrayed me. I never want to see you again." And so Nadiki goes back and becomes a Dark Hunter, and everyone faces severe punishment from the Shadowed One. for fucking this all up. Yes.
Because you're not really descriptive about the punishment. I just like to imagine, like, he puts them over their knee and just gives them a big old spanking. Like, what do you think that he does?
Probably has someone throw a vacuum space over their head so they just can't breathe, and just punches the shit out of their body at the same time. And then occasionally it was like, you don't need that extra finger. Or just like, you know, a lot of it's torture. It's all just torture. And depending on the day, he might be like, I don't feel like taking any limbs today. Or I don't feel like, but he has other people do it for him. Because he doesn't need to get his own hands dirty. Yes, Jason.
So if this dude is supposed to be like Galaxy Brain, Shadowed One is greater than Makuta, confirmed, then why did he send these fuckwits instead of like his top people like the Assassin Girl to take over what you have now established is like a metropolitan global center of economic trade?
Mariska and a lot of his top agents were sent there.
Oh.
But they were expecting 9 Toa. They only thought there was 9 Toa in the city. They didn't expect
retaliation.
They didn't expect them to somehow get out word for another 300 to show up.
So quickly.
So quickly, exactly. They thought they went with like huge hard like blitzkrieg, and
like,
they were gonna go.
What kind of network could they have?
They didn't. And they surrounded the island, so it wasn't like there was a lot of transport being able to come in and out.
They tweeted it out.
And
I got it.
It was like,
no, this is good clarification.
Yes. So it was a complete surprise that just 300 Toa just magically showed up in the city, but they were hidden in shipping containers as if they were just cargo. Hashtag people aren't cargo, right?
Hashtag help, hashtag dark one.
Listen, they're probably the pirates. They probably it's whatever.
Would that have been an appropriate situation for Toa Lacan to call Toa Nadiki Piraka?
That would have been a perfect opportunity for Toa Lacan to call Toa Nadiki a Piraka. But part of the Toa code means you can only be so much of a dick. You generally don't get to say really bad swear words, and you don't get to kill anything.
You can't be a pure Chad.
Wait,
yeah.
whoa. For being a Toa, you can't kill them?
Yeah, you can't kill anyone. If you're part of the Toa code is that you cannot kill other beings, because if you kill them, you are no better than they are.
So they've never, like, the
Toa have
killed a
never,
Rocky or anything.
with the exception of, presumably, of Nuva killing Makuta, presumably, that is the only time that the Toa have actually killed anything. Every other Rocky or Rakshi are also part of Makuta's essence, and it's mostly the armor they destroy. And even then, Nuva took all the Krata that were in the Rakshi and put them in the Usanui to guide him to Makuta. So any deaths that are around Toa are generally all like happenstance or coincidental. They're more like an effect of other stuff going on. Collateral damage, never like Toa actually going and just stabbing them to death or anything.
Okay.
So they're all bad.
There's no intentional killing.
As long as your murder is indirect.
Yes, as long as your murder is indirect, it's whatever. But generally speaking, even though we'll get to something that's there in a little bit. They don't. Once again, the idea is that if you are a Toa, if you kill someone or any other being or whatever, you are no better than the enemies that you think you should be fighting.
I'm switching teams.
Okay, switch your teams.
I ain't about that pussy shit.
Okay.
Traitor?
Dude, you should have grabbed Toa Liwa. He's the one that switches teams all the
Traitor.
time. Alright, so fast forward to skips back 250 years ago. 250 years ago, we are in the middle of the the Dark Hunter Brotherhood of Makuta War. So this is after Makuta and the Shadowed One declared war on each other with the whole Mask of Time debacle and stuff when Vakama left the island, and so they've been fighting. As this has been going on, a lot of other groups have been fighting against the Brotherhood of Makuta and have been diverting attention away from them. So the Dark Hunters have just been doing a lot of hit and run tactics and just sniping at the heels of the Brotherhood of Makuta and getting small victories here and there. And we are transported to where a Dark Hunter stronghold is, and the Brotherhood of Makuta's armies are laying siege to it, where the Piraka are all stationed and a bunch of the other Dark Hunters. It is there that, they're all like, why would they're on like such a really remote island. They're like, why is the Brotherhood of Makuta here? Why do they even care that we have a fortress here? And Zaktan's like, don't you guys know? This used to be a Brotherhood of Makuta fortress. So they're just coming to claim it back from us. And they're seeing like some of the other Dark Hunters like get sniped down left and right, and they're like, what do we do? And they're like, we're sure as not fuck staying here. You're like, you understand if anyone sees us leave, they're gonna call us, traitors and say that, we abandoned the stuff. He's like, yeah, that's why we don't let them see it, dummy. I'm like, so just hide behind people, let them get shot or whatever. Zaktan is like, while you guys are doing that, distract people, I need to go look for something because I need to see, obviously, if it's a Brotherhood of Makuta stronghold, we never found any treasure or anything here. There must be something here that they are looking for. So Zaktan walks into the building, starts walking through the different chambers, and he's looking around. It's just all very plain, just rocks, rock structures, buildings. It's not anything. So he turns his body into the massive prototypes and starts seeping into the cracks of the stones, looking for a secret passageway until he finds it and materializes on the other side of it. And in this room is just a bunch of weird writing that he can't even decipher or read, or all sorts of stuff, like weird symbols here on the walls, and he doesn't really understand what's going on, but he understands that it is some kind of writing. But the way he's looking at it, he's like, it almost looks like it's some kind of formula, like a mathematic formula. It's weird. And he goes and touches the wall in one of the rooms, and all of a sudden it lights up and glows, and boom, hologram shows up, this huge thing, and it is the diary of Makuta. And in this, Zaktan learns what Makuta's grand plan is. And it is so galaxy brain that Zaktan is just brought to his knees in just, he's like, I am so insignificant in this, like the amount of like mind-breaking, galaxy melding, universe big brain that Makuta really actually is. His plan, this is, the Shadowed One could never come up with something like this. There's no way the Shadowed One could ever even begin to approach the realm of Makuta's intelligence from me just seeing this plan. And one day, I'm going to be part of it. Zaktan is committed that now that he knows what Makuta's grand plan is, in the grand scheme of things, that he's going to find some way to get in on it, because there is no winning side unless you're on Makuta's side from this plan. Like, it's so galaxy brain. Yes?
So Zaktan's the only one that's not actually a selfish piece of shit?
Zaktan is a tremendous...
In a way.
Yes. But Zaktan realizes upon seeing Makuta's grand schemes that he's like, everything else, every scheme, every heist, every word of anyone that's ever thought themselves to be intelligent is nothing compared to this. Yes.
Also, Makuta keeps a diary.
Makuta does keep diaries. Makuta keeps diaries and logs because they all do, I guess.
Apparently, it's a really hot diary if he's all like super.
Yeah.
hot.
Man.
Oh, this Makuta.
Makuta, baby.
Oh.
Makuta. Give me those Makutis.
Heart
You got some Makutis you can give me? So Zaktan leaves and goes, all right, boys. It's time to abandon ship. And all the Piraka escape. All the other Dark Hunters and everything die on there, but they manage to escape. And they continue working with the Hunter Brotherhood for another 250 years. Flashback to 1 month ago from the current time. And the Piraka are making their way through this watery channel outside of the destroyed city of Metru Nui. And they're making their way down this channel. There's a bunch of roggy and stuff. It's weird. And there's this giant cave-in portion up here. And they just go ahead and just start blasting off the rocks, and they make their way through. And it is at the point that the 6 Skakti Dark Hunters have abandoned the Dark Hunter Brotherhood. They've decided to set off on their own. They're going to be their own pirate kings, which is immediately a death sentence for them. Like, you do not leave the Dark Hunters. If you leave, you die. And they've decided to go off and find something because they have heard hearsay that the Makuta has been killed. And what better place to find some really cool loot and treasure than the Makuta's stronghold? Like, holy crap. So they make their way up through the channels, and they make their way through into the Makuta's lair. Also, once again, way back when they blasted down the waterway to prevent the Vaki from chasing the Toa Metru, that's what they blew up there. So they're making their way back up to the island of Motunui. And they make their way into Makuta's lair. And they're looking around, they're like, oh, what's this over here? Oh, this is kind of neat. Oh, that's kind of awful. Oh, that's kind of crazy. What's this? And Hakan picks up this spear, and he's like, oh, man, what does this spear say? It says, Spear of Fusion. And they're like, oh, that's weird. That's kind of neat. I wonder what it does. And Radok is like, I don't know, why don't you fire it at something fly out? And he's like, yeah, sure. He points it immediately at Vizok and blasts him with the Spear of Fusion. And Vizok is like, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden Vizok, because Vizok is described as like very like cunning and intelligent, but also like really, really hyper aggressive and strong, and is suddenly split into 2 beings. a new silvery-looking copy of himself is standing next to him. And they're like, whoa, Vizon. And they're like, what? Vizon is the Matoran word for double. So, because he is the same as Vizon, he's the double. So it's, oh, Vizon. And they're like, oh, what did you do? And so, before this, they've been looking around a little bit, and they found what was Makuta's armor, all destroyed. And they're like, oh man, he actually is dead. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, look, Zaktan's like, a cool, spooky Kenobi mask. I'm just gonna swipe that for myself, and lightning bolts of darkness just shoot out at it, and he's like, no, don't want it! Throws it into the water. Throws it in the water, he's like, I don't want it! I don't, it's not that good anyway. Just tosses it into the water. And so they found the spear fusion, they split up, and, they're like, oh man, what's happening? All of a sudden, Manus crabs start coming into the, because they're standing around, and they're like, okay, well, what else do we look for here? And all of a sudden, all of the Piraka suddenly, out of nowhere, have the same idea in their mind. Go to Voya Nui and find the Kenobi Mask of Life. None of them had ever heard of Voya Nui before. None of them had ever heard of the Mask of Life before, and yet all of them just suddenly had the same exact idea and knew it. And they're like, all right, boys, I guess we're going to find this Mask of Life. So they start trying to figure out where to go, and they're like, okay, well, let's go out this way. And as they are walking, Manus crabs start showing up, the big guardian crab things from way, way, way back in year 1. Except they aren't just Manus crabs, they're Monaco. They're like double the height and size of these giant monster truck-sized crabs. And they're like, Monaco are the guardians of Makuta. They're like, that's why they're here. And they're like, have you ever heard of anything being able to fight one? And he's like, no. Well, what do we do? And Vizon goes, you distract him, Hakan, and throws Hakan right in front of them. And they're like, now we run, boys! And so they're running up there, and Hakan's like, I swear to God, I will murder you. So they're running up, they're trying to break their way, and just digging through this tunnel, digging up the staircase, and finally, because this is where Nuva had crashed the Usanui and everything, and caved in, and they're cutting through and breaking up, and the Monaco are coming closer and closer, and then all of a sudden, they get up to the dirt outside, and the Monaco just stop. They don't ascend any further up the tunnel. They're like, what's going on? They're like, maybe they're only set to guard that area and they won't pursue us. And they're like, I guess that's what it is. So they make their way up onto the island of Motunui. The Matoran are all gone by this point. They've made their way to Metru Nui in their canoes and stuff, which took like a month. It took like 2 months to get all of the Matoran from Motunui to make all the canoes and stuff and swim back to Metru Nui. So they're looking around the island, and all of a sudden, wouldn't you know it, there seems to be this giant shrine with 6 shiny canisters, the same ones that the Toa Mata had shown up originally in. That they had just kept up in like little shrines. They're like, I guess we're going to use these to go and pilot these to get to Voya Nui. And they're like, all right, boys, everybody get in. And Hakan goes, yeah, Vizok, go ahead and get in. And they're like, wait a second, Vizok, wasn't there 7 of us? Where's Vizon? And they're like, oh, he's gone. Where's that Spirit Fusion? Oh, he took that too. Maybe, I don't think he just found that he was going to go to find Mask of Life or anything. That'd be crazy. I'm like, yeah, sure would be crazy, wouldn't it? So they all get into the canisters, and they all start to get ready to float off. And Hakan is like, all right, Vizok, I'll see you there. And Vizok closes up the canister, and Hakan starts like heat drilling into the canister to tamper with it to make it so it'll sink, which is why it tampered earlier and Vizok almost drowned there. So, that is the end of Book 4, Legacy of Evil, which will bring us directly into Book 5, Inferno. Yes, Chris.
I've noticed that behind you there is this spear-wielding silver guy on a scary dinosaur.
Yes, because deep down, as the Piraka are walking down and descending the 777 steps of life into the, to find where the Mask of Life is, deep down in the molten core underground is a giant Fenrak spider sitting around, and on it, a silver-looking Piraka with a huge crazy staff.
Oh, he's got a cape too?
And he's got a little cape. Do you know how much this cape actually goes for in Lego parts? It's like $20.
No shit.
Dead ass. Like, you want to like, oh yeah, you can just, like buy all these bits and pieces, and all of them are like 5 cents, 3 cents, 2 cents. This cape, $20. Yes.
Number 1, Chengang.
Chengang. He's got Chengang.
Number 2, can you estimate how much your collection is worth?
in parts and pieces, I mean, we're talking several $100s.
I'll give you
If you wanted to sell them as
$3.50
full
for it.
Huh?
I'll give you $3.50.
Oh man, $3.50? About $3.50? Wow, that sure is a great offering. But anyway, so so if he's on his, he's down in there. He's like, oh man, I can smell him. I can feel him coming. I know that there's guys coming. We're about to have a party. I can feel it. Yes, ever since we came down here and found the Mask of Life and got the Mask of Life, it cursed us and fused us together, best friend Fenrak Spider. It fused us together, didn't it? It didn't. And we're gonna find out. It's like I'm protecting the Mask of Life. Where's it protecting me? I can never seem to remember. He's just crazy. So he is fused to this giant spider. Normally there are these, they're called Fenrak spiders, and normally they're very, very, very small. They're like maybe the size of crabs at most. But this one is horribly mutated and giant, so that's there, and you can.
Dig the teeth.
Oh yeah, I mean you go chomp, except chomp.
Poor man keeps losing.
I know
his
it's losing its foot, but it's okay. He'll grow it back. He's got the Mask of Life. Say what?
Super glue?
No, you don't want to ever super glue.
Gorilla glue.
You're right.
Oh no, his foot fell.
Oh no! Okay, so as the Piraka begin to descend the steps, they make their way to a split room where there is a door on the left and a door on the right. And the door on the left is sealed shut. And they go, all right, I guess we're taking the door on the right. Hakan is the first one to go in because Hakan is like, all right, if I go in first, that means I'm the closest to being able to get the Mask of Life for myself first.
Oh my god, these guys.
He walks in and immediately starts screaming and wailing. He's looking at his pieces. They're all starting to melt and burn, and he's just like wailing in horror. Before him is a gold-spined terror that is the bane of every Skakti's existence, known only in myth and folklore as the absolute harbinger of death and doom. And that is this horribly deformed bastard known as Irnak. He is a folklore from Skakti myth brought to life. And he is just approaching him and he's like, oh man, I gotta get out of here. But if I get out of here, then if I turn back, I won't be the first one to go to the Mask of Life. And Zaktan and the others are like, what the hell is going on down there? They're like, what's he screaming about? What's going on? And as as they walk down a little bit further, they see the Irnak and they're like, there is no way. There's no way that is real. There's no way that is standing right there in front of us. There's no way. There's no way that can be real. Like, wait, all we have to do is remember the stories, remember the folklore about how to defeat the Irnak. How do they go again? And they're like, the Irnak only goes away once there's nothing left to kill and destroy. And they're like, fuck! All of a sudden, Avak is imprisoned in another giant prison. And he's like, he's hyperventilating, Thok and Vila, they're all like being horribly, having horrible times. Zaktan is like, he's like, you know what? I can do this. I can fight this, and just immediately feels himself like phasing out of reality. And he's like, oh god, what's happening? And he just disappears from the room. And he's like, oh no, Irnak turned me into a thought. Thougght, not Thot. There is a difference. Turned him into just like an idea. Irnak just is this horrible, weird folklore monster can just turn people into just ideas in his mind. And he's like, I'm in. And he starts hearing all these reverberations, just making him feel sick. And he's just, oh god, what happened? He's like, I'm in Ernak's mind. He turned me into a thought. And Irnak is like, oh yeah, good, you picked up on that real quick, bud. So here's the thing. Yeah, keep my attention while you can, because if I get distracted, you just won't exist anymore. And he's like, you see, I come here and I like you. You rule through fear. I rule through fear. This is really great. He was like, but here's the thing. He's like, oh, you can't defeat me. And Zaktan's like, oh, sure we can. All we have to do is stop fearing you. And Ernak's like, yeah, except that you can't. And he's like, or to make you fear something as well. And he's like, all right, so let me hear it. What you got, boy? What you got, kid? He's like, there's only one thing that can stop us. And he's like, and that's 2 shots into the roof of this thing, collapses the whole thing and kills us all. If that happens, because we can't fear you, you can't exist. Since you only exist through our fear.
You can't make a game like that.
And yeah, apparently. and Irnak is like, that's a really good point. But you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't kill yourself like all that. You wouldn't sacrifice yourself for all this. He's like, try me, boy! And he's like, all right, man. That's cool. You win this round. And the Irnak just disappears. And all the Piraka suddenly just get up and they're like, what the fuck was that? Because it seemed like nothing had happened. Like, none of them were injured or anything. They're just like, whatever. He's like, well, we continue on, boys. So as they continue in, the Toa and Nika are getting up. They send Matoro's spirit to go out, and he sees that they went down the right side of the room. So they all make their way up down the steps. They walk down, and as they are starting to walk down, all of a sudden Toa Lacan shows up before them. And they're like, whoa, 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 who the hell is this? And I was like, wait, you're Toa Lacan. And he's like, yep, I'm still here to let you know, you guys really shouldn't go down there. It's a really horrible time. You guys are probably going to die. The Master Light has a lot of really crazy protectors, and, you guys should just turn around right now. And they're like, and Jala's like, Toa Lacan, we've heard so many great stories of you. One, you're not real because you're dead. We know this. But two, would you go down there if you were in our place? And he was like, yeah, I probably still would. He's like, then I guess we go. He's like, no, go at your own risk. And Toa Lacan vanishes out of existence. It's another hallucination brought by this chamber. So they make their way down the steps and they go, all right, left room, right room. And the right room is sealed off. And Matoro's like, oh, wow, that's weird. I could have sworn that the Piraka had gone down the right room, but, Huki's like, yeah, the stone here hasn't been moved in, centuries. So there's no way that could be real. It's like, well, I guess we take the left. And Kongu's like, did none of you hear the story of what happened when everyone goes down the left path? Does nobody remember what happened in the Toa Metro when they went left? Yes.
So is Biden become president?
Oh, my God.
Shit.
Goddamn. All right, so the Toa and Nika go down the left path, and I guess we'll stop here for now.
Earn out for Smash Brothers.
Earn out for Smash Brothers.